Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about the design brief that we saw on ISC. Now, if you guys haven't seen the episode, I highly urge you to go check it out. I'll leave it linked down in the video description. But I just want to play a snippet from it and then kind of talk about the design brief around hangars specifically.
Instanced hangars solve a particular problem. How do we have people spending an extended period of time in their hangar loading cargo now that we've added these freight platforms, but also allow the locations to have traffic coming in and out of the landing zones? What we're doing here is decouple.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it right there. Immediately, in my opinion, this is not a problem. And shouldn't be a problem. It's kind of one of those situations that CIG put themselves in my personal opinion. From a design standpoint, it shouldn't actually be a problem. And I'm a little bit late in this video, I'm going to talk about my solution. But developing technology that's kind of temporary, in my opinion, is a ton of work. Because I'm not saying that they're going to change it in the future. They're going to figure out a way to make it persistent, these instance hangars persistent. I personally don't think they're needed. Now, what I said in my video about the rework to Lorville is that I kind of played City Planner a little bit in that video. Pretty interesting video. I'll leave it linked down in the video description as well. It's still a very interesting video because if there's any developers from CIG watching this video, that's the video to watch because it kind of focuses around how cities should be designed. Again, when we got cities in Star Citizen, it was one of those things where, it was a landing zone. The whole planet wasn't designed to be interactable. So the philosophy behind them was, okay, you land at this location, there's shopping and a few things to do, and that's kind of it. But as the game grew, the design of those cities didn't really change. And they kind of added a few different things where you could drop off boxes on rooftops of buildings and things like that. But I really want CIG to start thinking of cities as areas that have a little bit more content. That have, again, some cities have mission givers. That's another thing that's really good and really interesting to add the gameplay to the city. But in that video, I kind of talked about it in terms of districts because that's basically what CIG said they were moving towards, and I think that's really exciting, and I think that's a good idea. If you're a city planner out there, you enjoy city planning games, in my opinion, it's a really good way to kind of segment the experience. Austin is a great example of that. To be able to have habitable platforms spread out help performance of the actual game is huge. But really, in that video, I said that instead of having one spaceport, CIG should make multiple spaceports. And they did tease that a little bit when they talked about building interiors, having hangars at the base, places to land other than the spaceport. So again, it kind of keeps in line with this trend that the spaceport isn't going to be the only place you land at a city or planetary location. And in my video about the Lorville City rework, I said that CIG should spread that traffic out throughout the city. So you have the spaceport for commercial landings, you have a spaceport for cargo, just for cargo, people doing cargo missions, and then you have smaller hangars at the base of buildings where players can land. Because again, in the real world, it doesn't make sense to drive to the airport and park your car and then take a bus home. You would park at your apartment complex. Normally, apartment complexes downtown, they have garage parking lots where people park their cars and then they go up to the building to their apartment or whatever. So that design, it makes sense. It exists in the real world, so it's a good way to do that in the game. Now, even if you have to make this like an instance zone, like, you know, the hangar at the base isn't really physically there, that would make more sense and be more convenient, because you're in a place where at that point this hangar isn't as like a persistent location, but is just where you park your ship to go to your apartment or to your in-game hab. Okay, and then you have traffic coming and going at the spaceport, and then you have traffic coming and going at the cargo spaceport. So in that respect, let's say, you know, a silver shard has a player population that grows, and you have you know, instance or persistence hangars, you still have a lot of traffic that is centered at the spaceport. So even if the habs are instance and you essentially land in the hangar, it disappears and somebody else can land at it, you still have literally every player that wants to go to the city going to just one place. That could affect performance, that could lead to different inefficiencies with different workflows. Again, for people who are just, you know, not wanting to stay long, they just want to land, trade whatever they bought or sold, and then go back again. It's a lot of friction. And this could be easier, again, if you had a cargo spaceport. Maybe you have like a lot of outside landing pads or a lot of large hangars that have, you know, quicker trading hub that's right there at the cargo area. So instead of taking a train all the way into the city, you could trade right there at the cargo hub. So it kind of makes sense from a logistical standpoint for the city to move their trade hub to the shipping port instead of forcing people to go into the city to the business district and creating a bunch of inner city congestion. So from a city planning standpoint and for a gameplay standpoint, it just makes more sense to create dedicated areas in the city where you want players to go to. But we're going to keep playing this video. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it.
The access to a hangar from the occupancy. And all that really means is that we can dynamically create these hangars at runtime, and they're kind of set aside for players to spend time inside of.
Without getting too much into it, right, you're gonna have a personal space. We're just looking at ways that a lot more players can do this simultaneously.
We don't want to have a big choke point of everybody trying to load their ships and unload, and all trying to do that in the same space.
Exactly. You shouldn't. You shouldn't have that problem if you just spread that out. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. In my personal opinion, you're working on developing an entirely new technology that literally, when you call ATC, spawns a hangar zone that you land into just like you do now, and then when the doors close, that becomes an instanced hangar and you can stay there for much longer. But what's actually happening outside in the game is that that hangar now becomes available again for somebody else. So you're essentially not in the PU anymore. You're in an isolated level where you can do whatever you want to do. You can access your inventory using the freight elevators. You wouldn't need to develop a technology that even does that in the first place if you just spread it out to different locations. And I know, you know, making a location is a lot of work, but planets are massive. Space is massive. You can put these hangar locations all over the game, and by centering them around what players are going to do, then you reduce the amount of traffic for that one thing. Again, a lot of people said this about cargo decks. They wish that there was separate docking ports or hangars for the cargo deck. So that way, if you want to trade or do cargo type stuff, you don't have to go to the main area of the space station and then take the elevator to the cargo deck. That doesn't make any sense. Why not just put players at the cargo deck where they're going to do the gameplay that they came there to do? You know, in my opinion, that's a lot easier on the game, because now you don't have a million players in one spot. You have them spread out. And two, it helps performance, because now you have players that are more spread out. And when you have silver meshing and you know, the silver spooling up, where the shard is spooling up a new silver for different areas, you could essentially have, you know, 100 players in the cargo spaceport of a city and 100 players in the regular spaceport of a city, and you can separate those two things on two different servers on the same shard. But with silver meshing, if you have everybody at the spaceport, you have everybody going to the spaceport, then that might all have to exist on the same server. I don't know. But I think for performance reasons, for gameplay reasons, it just makes sense to have a cargo spaceport, to have a passenger spaceport, to have like a general spaceport for people going to the city, and then hangars around apartments so people can just fly straight to their apartment. Because again, you have to remember, this is 900 years in the future. Spaceships are basically like, you know, Toyota Camrys. So people are going to want to be able to fly from their apartment straight out into space. They don't want to have to go all the way into the city to do everything. I feel like it, and again, CIG has teased this in the concept artwork, that apartment buildings will have their own hangars. And in my opinion, it just makes a lot of sense to spread it out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fast forward a little bit to where they start talking about persistent hangars. Now, I have some questions for this and some suggestions. So again, if you are a CIG dev and you're watching this video, I really want to like comment down below or something, or you know, reach out to me, because this is interesting. This is a really interesting ISC and I do like it. Don't get me wrong, this is one of my favorite ISCs, but I think there's definitely more to discuss here. I think this design brief is good, so let me fast forward to that part and then we're going to talk about that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about persistent hangars, and this is super interesting because there are a couple of things that they didn't address, and I don't know if they're going to address it in a later ISC, but I'm going to kind of talk about my thoughts anyway, because again, I think this is a really interesting topic and I want to hear you guys opinions about it in the comments down below. Again, I'm not bashing this episode of ISC at all. I think it was a great episode. I think these are good ideas, but I think there is more conversation to have around the subject. So let's now talk about persistent hangars.
And then we have persistent hangars. Persistent hangars are kind of an evolution of instant hangars. And really what it is it's our first step towards real player ownership in the game beyond ships.
The cool thing is that you'll be able to put your stuff in it, come back to it, and it's still gonna be there.
It's just whatever the player wants to keep inside their hangar, that's their home. They can just leave them lie around, they can arrange them however they want, be it weapons or cargo or dead corpses or whatever.
Very, very long term. I have no clue of any dates or anything, but you'll be able to customize it and upgrade it so it becomes bigger. You can have bigger ships in them. And maybe at some point even having them like at distant location, you could buy a second one.
Okay, now that is the interesting thing that I want to talk about. Now, as many of you know, I am an old backer. I have been playing this game for a long time on an almost daily basis, okay? One of the biggest things, a lot of, I don't want to say, you know, whales or baby whales or dolphins or whatever, people who bought a lot of ships. You know, you have multiple hangars, different ones too. Some hangars are like the VFG industrial hangar. Some hangars are like the fancy Revel in York hangar. Some hangars are, you know, you have different ones with different designs that are supposed to be in different locations. I don't know. For him to say here that maybe at some point you'll be able to buy different ones, it's like, what are you talking about? I don't need I have 7. You know? Are you telling me that we're gonna get 1? I'm supposed to get 7. Where are they? Are they at the spaceport? They're not supposed to be at the spaceport. Like, what are you talking about? Again, I don't mean to sound heated or upset here. I'm honestly just joking around. But I want to know what their ideas around that are. I don't really care about instance hangars, persistent hangars. Like, we know we're supposed to get hangars. This is not news. How are you going to do these things? You know what I mean? Instant hangars is fine. It's like a stopgap thing for space stations. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I think you should spread them out. But when it comes to persistent hangars, but if I have 7 hangars because I have 7 spaceships, I have 7 spaceships and they came with hangars and they come with hangars. As if you guys don't know, all spaceships, when you buy them on the store, whether it's a part of a game package or a single sale, they come with a hangar. Now, what is that? Is that a persistent hangar allocation? Is that access to a hangar at a spaceport? Is that the fact that I might be able to have like 7 years worth of hangar rent? What is the hangar? What is the hangar that comes with my ship in relation to this mechanic that you're talking? Hey guys, so I wanted to quickly insert this part of this little clip into the video because I went over to my account just to take a look at it, to take a look at the different kinds of hangars that actually come with different ships. And so I went to actually look at what is kind of like included in the package or whatever on my account. And you see my Nautilus here with lifetime insurance, and it says Selflin Hangar Pass. I hadn't noticed that before. I don't know if that's new, but what does Hangar Pass mean? Yeah, so now when you go to your account, let me know if this says the same thing for you guys. On basically all my ships, it now says Hangar Pass underneath what kind of hangar it is. Don't know what that means. So yeah, we'll get back to the video now. In terms of persistent hangars, I feel like this entire problem could be solved extremely easy. So when CIG did the Orson platform missions update, they added a bunch of Orson platforms all over the upper atmosphere of Crusader, different locations that players could do to do missions. And the benefit of this is that those missions wouldn't take a performance hit from being in the city. And that's why earlier I brought up Orson as kind of the perfect template for what a city in Star Citizen can be, to spread the content to different islands around the planet. Makes a lot of gameplay sense. Now, they have more tools to do that with Rastar. They can place items on planets a lot easier. So I understand the technical limitations they had before. But now with Rastar, hopefully it becomes a lot easier to procedurally place things on planets. But my idea initially around hangars is that they wouldn't be on planets at all. So I took a look at and you know what, wait a second, I'm gonna bring something up real quick. So I'll be back and I want to show you some images about kind of to kind of illustrate my idea a little bit. So give me 1 second. All right. So back when CIG was doing design and exploration for Ruin Station, they put up in the subscriber vault a lot of images of their concepts. So you can see here different space station, designs that they were looking at. And I think, this was the final design that they chose for Ruin Station in Pyro, which I think this was a good choice. But essentially at that time, I kind of thought about this idea around hangars a little bit more. Right now in the game, the second, if you're a seasoned player, the second you get in game, what a lot of people do is they go to the spaceport and they change their spawn location in the medical clinic at the space station, so they don't have to go through the trams in the city and go to the spaceport to do anything. Now, if your entire inventory is on a planet in the main spaceport, and you have to go to the spaceport, go to this persistent or instance hangar to access your inventory through the freight elevator, that is kind of reducing the viability of kind of the space station gameplay, because again, a lot of people, they like the idea of living on this ship, being a citizen of space itself, and a lot of people do a lot of gameplay around space stations. Having your hangar at a space station makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. If persistent hangars were at, let's say that there's a space station that is just like, okay, we're selling hangars, you can park your ship here, and that's it. So it's just, so this space station's purpose is just to be like a garage parking lot or self-storage. You go to this space station, you have your persistent hangar at this space station, and for situations like the VFG Industrial or the asteroid space station or the asteroid hangar, if you have the asteroid hangar, it would be a space station like Grim Hex. So the asteroid hangar would be at a space station like Grim Hex, the rings around a planet. So you would essentially have the ability to have multiple persistent hangars, because right now orbiting above a planet is just one space station. Why? There's absolutely no reason to have only one space station orbiting a planet. CIG could put a space station at every orbital marker around planets, and these other space stations could just be storage locations for players to have their persistent hangar. Again, the main spaceport should be like an airport. It's strictly a place for passenger flight. But then if you want commercial flight, if you want cargo and industrial, they have their own spaceports for that. And players having their hangars in space stations, again, it will help with traffic, it will help with performance of the game, it will help with persistence, because again, this single space station could be its own server on the shard. So in a server meshed situation, let's say each space station is its own server, the city is its own server, and they all of these servers exist on the same shard, right? So you could have essentially 100 players at a space station, 100 players in the city, 100 players on a moon, and the performance of the game will be consistent, because it's not like you have this load all in one place. Okay, so in my opinion, for someone like me who has 7 hangars, I could essentially have 2 hangars at Microtech, 2 hangars at Houston, 2 hangars at Crusader, and then, you know, maybe a hangar at ArchCorp, because I don't go to ArchCorp that much. And boom, all my 7 hangars are there. Or maybe when more star systems come into the game, I could have, you know, 4 hangars in Stanton, 4 hangars or 3 hangars in Terra, and kind of spread around my inventory that way. Okay, again, this episode of ISC didn't completely talk about how that's gonna work. They kind of just said that it was further down the line, that you know, it's something that will take a little bit longer to happen. But it kind of seemed like what the initial intention is, that they're gonna do instanced hangars and then just make those instanced hangars assignable. So you would land at a planet, you would get an instance hangar, and this instance hangar will just now persist. Okay, I don't think CIG should do that. I think CIG should just, because again, they don't have to be like this space station. They could be like the space stations we have now, like Bikini Point and Seraphim Station. They could be the same modular space stations. Just take the module of the station that has all the hangars and duplicate it. Just be like, okay, this space station has 50 hangars, and then put 10 around the planet, and then boom, now 500 players can now 500 players have a persistent hangar around that planet, and you could effectively have 2,000 players in one shot, and they all have their own persistent hangar. So I think it would be a lot easier. You wouldn't have to develop any tech for it. All you have to do is place more space stations, which again, they have the module space station system, like they added Seraphim Station. Let's just say every patch they add 10 space stations for more hangar space. There would be no bottleneck. There would be no traffic. People would just go straight to their persistent hangar, get the freight elevator. Let's say it has a cargo deck at these stations. You give it a cargo deck, so then people could take the cargo from the cargo deck straight to their hangar using the freight elevator, access their inventory, be on their way. They don't have to go down to the planet, go through the city, take a train ride, do all this unnecessary stuff that just takes longer and is more stress on the game systems, because players, you know, again, I do like having those player hubs where you can see people running around and doing their thing, but it's like that at space stations. I go to space stations and I see players running around and act, you know, getting their ships, and space stations, in my opinion, are, you know, just as busy as cities. So these space stations can be their own little player hub, you know. If you're a CIG dev watching this video, please show this to someone in the company. Please consider making persistent hangars space stations, or giving us space stations for us to put our persistent hangars in. Again, there are tons of players like me who have 7 hangars. Where are you going to put those? I think instead of making this crazy system where a hangar spawns when you call ATC and then it disappears and it's instant, and don't do that. That's too much work. That's unnecessary. You don't need to do that. You could literally just drop 10 space stations around a planet tomorrow and just have players go there to get the and park their ships and put their stuff. Like, why would you develop a brand new system to do what you could basically already do? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I want to know more about this. Maybe They'll talk more about it on ISC. Again, I don't want it to seem like I'm bashing this episode of ISC. It was a great episode of ISC. You should watch it yourself. Check it out. Check out what they said. I love these design brief type videos. As a theory crafting channel, this is what I live for. I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about the game systems, how they work. And I want to give my opinions. I play the game a lot, so I don't want to say, you know, I know what's good for this game, but I feel like my sentiment is echoed in other players, people who play this game a lot. I feel like we can all agree that space stations are better locations for inventories than cities. You know, if you play this game a lot, I think we can all agree that space stations are better inventory locations than cities. Cities are cool places to go to if you want to do different things, but they should have different gameplay. They shouldn't be our inventory location. But let me know what you think. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think the city is the best inventory location for this game. Let me know why you think that in the comments down below. I love you guys. You guys have been supporting these videos like crazy, and I honestly, you know, the whole reason why I do this is to be able to talk to you guys. You guys were amazing on that last video. There was so many comments on that last video, replying to everybody. I love to see that. You guys, please do the same on this video. I want to hear what you guys think. I love talking to you guys. Like, I know some people might think, oh, I don't want to write a whole novel on YouTube. I will read every word. Trust me, believe me, I've gotten those comments before. I love getting them. I love hearing your thoughts. That's what I want to do. That's what I love about this community. We are so opinionated. We are so passionate. My favorite gaming community in the entire video gaming industry. So yeah, that's why I make these videos. But that's gonna be it for me here today, you guys. That's what I think. Great episode of ISC. Amazing discussion topic. I want to hear your ideas. So I'm gonna end it here. Like I always say in these videos, like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Salute.